see EU play.
You just have to wait a couple months.
Wait a couple months.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are. Bans coming in hot and fast. A lot of questions about what both teams are going to prioritize here. No surprise to see Renata taken away. Caitlyn a bit interesting, but has been a priority pick alongside the Nico and the Xayah.
Yeah, Caitlyn specifically a pick that Gumayushi loves, and I wouldn't be surprised if Keria added more high-pressure supports to his arsenal, something that T1 used really well this year in spring. And with Caitlyn especially, it can become really hard. And I think the meta has shifted more and more towards prio on bot side.
Exactly. It's been so much about fifth pick, counter pick, 4 supports, you know, from these LPL teams that we've seen win in 3 back-to-back days. But you talk about Keria, you talk about his flexibility, even back to when we were having, you know, all kinds of crazy supports in the bot lane, the ADCs, everything. Keria can play it all. So I really am so interested to find out what the preparation is here for T1. They're on red side. Will they go 5th pick, counter pick here for Keria and really try to run this first game through bot lane? That's my biggest question.
And right from the get-go, I like this from LNG. Take away this J4 from Owner. Owner has been the biggest point of contention for T1, one of the members that wasn't really able to perform, but this far on thus far on Worlds has been able to have a really big impact. And LNG also get Galas Kai'Sa and Scouts Azir.
These are the 2 champions that I feel like you associate most with these iconic players, and that is really, really scary. You know, people are generally enjoying the Azir matchup into Orianna. You know, it is kind of a similar thought process to when you're playing against Victor, where you can try to go in on cooldown, force out those flashes, get repeat ganks, get the kills. But I will say at Worlds, most of our Orianna players have been able to play very well around that, and we haven't really seen them fall prey to that Azir play. So interested to see if Scout can really kind of ramp things up and change that script.
And I'm also curious to see what T1 do with this blind pick Aatrox. What are they going to take away now to try to make sure that this is a setup matchup for success for Zeus? Because when I look at the first 3 picks on the side of LNG, I feel like they got everything they could possibly want here between the Azir as well as the Kai'Sa. What do they actually want to take away now on the side of T1 to make sure they're getting something out of this Aatrox pick?
I mean, I think you could just ban Renekton if you're going to ban another top laner, but they might just go more towards supports. You know, the Jax is already banned out. I do think you can ban out Renekton. It's obviously a great option. Cassante, you think you're generally happy about playing into that matchup as the Aatrox, but it's just going to be a focus on supports here, and maybe going to be a pick for support on 4 even for T1 to really kind of thin the pool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if LNG opt into the Senna ban here. We've seen the Senna be really successful into Kai'Sa specifically. And there is also still the flex potential. Like, I'm assuming this rel will go towards Owner, but there is still the opportunity for T1 to hold that until the end.
I mean, clearly they're just trying to limit the engage options to pair with the Kai'Sa, right? You know, that is the emphasis here. The rel has already been taken away. Again, assuming it is going to go jungle, it is a flex, but you banned away the Alistar, you've banned away that Nautilus. There are other options still available, but their Khan getting banned out. So clearly, LNG was worried about what I was thinking might happen, which is that support pick on 4. So they self-ban out that Rakan, but it does mean now they go over towards the Senna. It's likely going to be Senna TK, but there are other options, and T1 is one of the only teams in the world that has shown us that at a high level.
Specifically, Keria has been, I think, the most impressive when he can find these counter picks on support, and with Senna, it really opens up the pool of available picks. Oh, the crank is here!
This is like almost a pre-counter to that Tahm Kench. You're kind of expecting the Tahm Kench to come in. People do like this matchup. You can go aggressive with that Blitzcrank, but this is a feast or famine style pick here for Hong, and he's going to have to perform well, because if you fall behind on Blitz, you become useless fast.
And this Gwen actually is the counter pick that T1 opted into in Game 5 of the finals last year into the Aatrox. We'll see if Zika has a better time. Didn't work back then. What is going to be the R5 counter pick here?
I mean, this is, I'm expecting it to still be the TK, but, you know, is he going to go another option? Because I do think there's a lot of other good pairings. I've seen things like Cho'Gath. Neela is something that I've heard about. Yeah! And Neela's going to get locked in. It is the Neela Senna lane. This is something that a lot of people have been kind of whispering about it, talking about it in solo queue, popping up in scrims as well. The ability to all in here is really, really high. You can play it aggressive, and I think it's going to be a true support Senna. It's not going to be the fasting Senna here. It is just going to be a full-on Senna support. This is really exciting to see this brought out in such an important match.
Absolutely. A crazy curveball to throw in Game 1. If you manage to come out on top in this game with the Neela pick, suddenly this is a must-pick ban, highly contested champion, can change the entire structure of draft moving forward. But can they execute on it? As highlighted, Neela, very feast or famine, synergizes with Senna fantastically, yes, but not the traditional safe, hyper-scaling AD carry. Very vulnerable as we get later into the game.
Yeah, and the Neela specifically is something that T1 themselves suffered defeat from. It was one of the matches midway through summer
Yeah, I
when they
remember we
lost against
talking about
Noxious.
this.
And it actually was a really big point because that was the point where T1 really started to crack and we saw them falter more and more. And after that, we did see the pick pop up a lot more. So even in summer, it was already played someone in LCK.
I mean, it's so interesting because, Senna traditionally, you want to pair with melee champions that are farming and you queue through them for the heal plus the poke at the same time. Nilah basically works in the same way. Nilah is essentially just a melee AD carry, right? Like, you are playing that short range style. You're going to be between the enemy and your Senna, so the Senna can get that double value, can look for the pokes. You can look for all-ins as well, trying to go aggressive, trying to find those plays. And I'm so interested to see what kind of a build we're going to get from Guma because there's so many options. Some people even go things like that are more kind of tanky options, and they just act as like a pseudo-engage, that primary engage. What kind of a build is he going to go? That it really remains to be seen.
Something we're going to have to find out as we get onto the Rift for Game 1 here. Massive quarterfinal for all of the LCK, the last hope, T1 on the red side versus LNG. Of course, you can connect your League of Legends account with Prime Gaming to grab the exclusive Braum W emote. Get those rewards. Get in there.
And we've already seen Hung actually place an early ward to try and take control of the brush. Obviously, into any Nilah lane, you're going to try and make sure that you can actually threaten with the Blitzcrank, because if you just let Guma and Keria take control of the lane level 1, it can become really hard to play out, as once you get an experience lead, actually retaking control can be tough.
I mean, Blitz just has to threaten all-ins in basically every Blitz lane ever, right? You offer nothing other than that. So, especially against a ranged support like the Senna, Keria doesn't have to farm. You're just going to be purely focused on harassing this Blitz, poking down this Blitz. And if Hong is not able to put on that pressure, if he's not able to step up and really make them worried about those hooks, then it's going to be tough, and they're going to use this pressure here. Level 1, really strong with both the bot laners there from T1 there to assist. Owner moves in. He's going to be able to steal away the Raptors and see if he can find anyone on the red. Doesn't see it, so he's just going to go back up towards his blue buff, looks like.
Seeing what angle they can find to maybe generate an early advantage here, get something done. Finally, matchup, I think, is we're just going to keep coming back to it because it's so interesting, because it's such a unique duo of champions, but it's going to be frustrating for Society LNG, or it could be effortless. If they find a single all-in, if you shut this bot lane down early, it can fall apart, but if you play a slow lane against a champion who heals, Senna, a champion who boosts healing, Nilah, you're not going to get anything done. And yeah, now you can see how Gal and Hung already on the back foot here. Not able to walk up. Early level 2 comes through, courtesy of the experience sharing from Guma as he grabs those creeps and just makes the lane that much more difficult.
And both these champions, we talked about, Scout's going to have to flash.
Flash to the safety, clockwork windup. Faker not going to overextend. Not going to step too far forward to push that advantage, but excellent start for him in the mid lane.
Yeah, nicely played. Scout just went to the side to try to get a ward down, and Faker felt safe, knows that he has like his jungler relatively close to him, knew that he was able to play towards that side, just chases him down, forces a flash.
At the same time, T1 are aware that Tarzan is somewhere on the top half of the map, right? They have the ward on the red, know that it hasn't been taken, so I think Faker not moving too far forward there and committing his flash, definitely something that is more risk-averse and ends up working out well, although we are seeing Tarzan take that Raptor camp, maybe might be looking for a gank afterwards. Faker is pretty far up.
Well, and look where Faker is positioning, though. You can see him playing towards the bottom side of this lane. He's going to play towards the side that his jungler is. He's always going to be hugging more towards that side. He has the ward up on top side right there at the top of your screen, so he's going to be able to have time to react if this does come. You can see the wave was bounced, and it's pushing slowly towards him. So Faker will take the base. He'll just TP back in. It's also worth noting that he is playing Comet. We see so many different options here for the Orianna as well as the Azir. Some people playing Halo Blades. This is the Conqueror style, so it is likely to be Nashers. It's likely to be Leandries as well for Scout, and we'll see if that is going to be the option. Obviously, can go Crown as well. There's just so many different styles that people can go towards. No flash, though.
Incredibly flexible champion. Scout now stepping backwards. Should be okay here unless owner's willing to burn a summoner spell, but Tarzan there to cover. Means the play will fizzle out, but topside, botside completely isolated. They're getting to do what he wants on top side of the map, and it is paying off thus far. 31-18 the CS. Will even up a bit as this wave comes in, but you can see already that the Gwen has a pretty sizable advantage versus the Aatrox early on.
Yeah, and I think part of that is Zeus also had to kind of respect the wave, couldn't take early trades because he knew that Tarzan was towards the top half of the map, so if he trades too aggressively early, and Gwen, the first few levels are actually quite strong, and you set yourself up for a dive, it opens up a really easy opportunity for LNG to get ahead on the top side.
And so much of that matchup is being able to kind of just stay right on the edge of that Q range. So when Zeus goes for the Q that's about to hit you, you can pop your immune, stay outside where he's still on the outside of that ring, and you're going to be able to immune that. It makes it very, very difficult for Aatrox to kind of play that style that you want to in these matchups where you're constantly just poking away with those Qs. Because Gwen has the ability, both with that immunity and also with the skip and slash, to dodge to the side, to trade back really effectively, and to take all in. So it is a very tough matchup that scales incredibly well, and I'm so interested to see how Zika is going to perform, because this guy has just improved by leaps and bounds over this last year. In summer especially, I thought he was incredible in the LPL, and there is that style that I'm talking about. Right on the edge, the Q gets immune, and he's going to be able to get a good trade back as a result.
Excellent Q2, though, to ensure the pullback does come in. That said, Zaya's still not coming out on top in these trades. Will get easier once he has some natural sustain to come through from the Gore Drinker, but right now, when running the top side of the map, Owner there just to cover, just to pick up the Krugs.
Yeah, Big Finger Zeus hasn't actually backed yet. His wave state is kind of awkward, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Owner goes for a lane gank here, but did get spotted. So Zika shouldn't be in any trouble, but at the very least, it should allow Zeus to push out and get a back in. And then use his teleport to get back to lane. And again, I'm pretty sure Owner did get spotted, so shouldn't really be any risk for the Gwen here.
Does always get a little bit dicey, though, you know, when Gwen hits 6 there, because he can try to hold this wave potentially. Owner has base. Obviously, Zika doesn't know this, so he's still going to play down towards River, where we know that Tarzan is available for a potential counter gank if he had stayed around. And seeing that the wave got pulled with a cannon, Zeus couldn't actually base, and now Owner is not there, and the jungler's coming up, and Zika 6, so they're going to look for an all-in.
Zeus has the ulti, a bit extra movement speed. Will get away from the flank drag. Quick flash out to safety. Instantly just going to ult for the extra movement speed. Now the damage coming through from the Gwen. Tarzan looking to pull out the flash in. Zeus still living for now, but first blood on the top side for LNG as Zika cuts him down.
Really well played there by LNG. Owner didn't want to show, so he didn't want to fully kind of just show on the waves to be able to help him crash. As a result, he hides his positioning, but it means that Zeus had to stay around because with that cannon, it was going to be a freeze. Owner will start up the Dragon on the bot side here, though, so we'll see if LNG has anything to say about it.
Really well done there by LNG. It's using the fact that Zeus really wants to get that wave in. The adaptation from Tarzan to, instead of going back, up towards that top side gank. T1 will be able to pick up the Dragon, and I do think that the fact that Zeus still had his teleport available means that at least right now he will be able to pick up most of the CS and the wave, but it does mean Zika already has about like, 40% of a level up and has a kill plus a 20 CS lead. So this Gwen is going to be really tough to deal with as we get into the mid to late stages of the game.
I mean, it's first blood as well, so it's nearly an 800 gold lead up there in the top lane, which is going to be really, really rough, but Zeus trading well there. The wave still should crash. It's too much to hold, and you're too low HP. So the wave will crash. Zika's going to go see if he can find some honey fruit, likely, in the river. And if he can get it, which he does, I can see his health going up. So he's going to pick that up, but still Lex to base.
And the investment top side just certainly paying off thus far for LNG and their counter pick with the Gwen. The bottom side, however, Guma doing pretty well to at least have a small lead over Gao. The biggest difference you're going to notice is experience, again, because of the champions selected. Might free up Keria to lay down a little bit more global pressure with the ultimate. Something we're going to have to see if T1 are able to use.
And it's a good bit of push here for Keria and Guma. And I want to see, you know, if T1 are going to be opting into, you know, that soul optimization, you know, trying to follow around your jungler, trying to pick up all these additional souls, because really kind of ramping that up is such a big deal, especially if you are playing purely support Senna, you know, where you're not going to be farming, you're not going to be kind of getting that additional gold through that mid game, because you do have a true AD carry. It's not like you're paired with Tom Kench where you can start picking up more and more of that farm. So I want to see how he optimizes. He's at 27 souls already, but that is going to be a huge portion of your damage in this kind of a game.
Certainly is. Every 20 souls, 15 AD, 20 range, 10% crit chance. So it's going to feel good every time you hit one of those breakpoints as Keria. T1, 3 members in the area, ready to set up. Scout on the flank, however, going to look for the shove. Is going to manage to catch only Zeus in the meantime. Baker still standing strong. Shockwave getting good damage down. T1 quick to force the fight. Zika not powerful enough to force that one through. T1 taking one and might just turn right back to the Herald.
And T1 there, a lot of confidence. Crucially there, I think they're relying on the ultimate from Keria. In these early skirmishes, the heal as well as the fact that you can take, or rather focus on a target with all the CC that is available for T1 with Shockwave, the entirety of Rel's kit and Aatrox. And LNG going a little bit too ham on the early skirmish.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just look at the itemization for Scout right now. Like, he's got a crystal, he's got some mana and a dagger. That's it, right? Like, he doesn't really have much power behind this, so he does find a decent ultimate, but the follow-up's not going to be there. Tarzan not really able to get much damage done. Zika, I think, was just on tabbies at the time of that fight, so definitely not in a great position to force it, and they do get punished pretty heavily here.
Big here as well is that Zeus has a Hex Drinker, so that actually is really good in this early 3v3. Can tank a lot of damage. You see as well, Tarzan just gets 100 to 0 between the CC from Owner as well as Faker Shockwave, and then you're already a member down. This Aatrox is ready to go after you, and I think LNG should be happy that they're able to get the rest of the people out.
Yeah, I mean, the Sentinel helps, sure, but it's not like they were even close to killing anybody. I think that was an ill-advised fight for LNG to take. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised because they are one of those teams that, to me, is extremely measured. They're usually really good at evaluating how strong they are in a game. And if they don't feel that they're in a perfect position, you often just see them play side lanes, they trade for plates, they trade for jungle camps, they trade for objectives. And they're one of those LPL teams that is least likely to fight you if they don't feel that they're in an advantageous position. So it is a little bit surprising to see them opting into it, and T1 does punish. And you can see as a result, the gold lead opening up. Faker up over 20 CS, gets a kill there, and has taken 2 plates. So the Orianna is more than 1,000 gold ahead, and the Herald's now going to get dropped.
Yeah, Herald going to come crashing down here, only going to further extend Faker's lead. As you can see on the bottom of your screen there, Scout doing what he can to just push everything back, but now they might just go in for the counter punch. Scout pulled away, forced to flash out to safety. The Herald still connects. Now Faker going to be in trouble, but again, there's no follow-up damage here. Orianna just sitting pretty. Thank you very much, Tarzan. That was terrible. And now what the hell? T1! They're living rent-free in the heads of LNG. They have a timeshare there, and they're just now cashing in.
And usually LNG is the team that is so good about not taking fights that they shouldn't take. And then we'll talk about a topside 1v1 later on, but specifically that mid play. Why did Tarzan go in?
Well, why did Scout go in? Why did either of them go in? Scout goes in, ults him away, then has to flash out. There's no damage left. Then afterwards, Tarzan goes in. You got no damage. There's no way you're 100 to 0ing this Orianna, so it wasn't even close. And that is back-to-back fights where LNG really unorganized and really overestimating their point in the games. Let's watch this one more time. Zika starts to take the trade here, has the ulti available, but Zeus just sidestepping on the Rs, and then is able to turn it around here in the final moments. So both these queues, actually both players playing it really well, but just no heal cut through that ultimate meant couldn't actually do enough damage.
And I think because of the earlier play, there was actually a CS advantage or an experience advantage for Zeus as, yeah, again, I don't know. There is no
so
damage follow-up.
Unorganized.
And especially with Shockwave still available, you're just never getting out of there. As Tarzan feels like the communication there between Scout and Tarzan just not on the level it needs to be.
No, absolutely not. LNG are looking nervous in game 1 here. And if you can't tell, the crowd seems to be favoring T1 here in Korea. The crowd erupting with every single play. And LNG looking really uncomfortable.
I mean, Gal wanted to turn it into a library. That has not been the case yet. T1 off to a roaring start. 3K gold advantage. Fantastic at this stage of the game. And again, bot lane hasn't even gotten involved yet. They have done very little. They are a part of the gold lead courtesy of Senna and all that additional soul gold, but they've just kept Gala and Hong under their turret the entire game thus far.
But the big thing is, with a lot of the action happening towards the top side of the map, it has allowed Guma and Keria to just play fully for bullying in the lane.
Yep.
Because there is no support from Tarzan, and Scout and Zika obviously haven't had an opportunity yet either to get towards the bot side of the map, this counter pick of the Neela actually ends up working out really well. I think it's like an... what is it, a free 400 gold lead here, just from the plates on Guma over Gala.
And Keria, the gold is relevant on Ascena here, and he's a good 600-700 gold ahead because he's actually farming gold as well, you know, really effectively off those plates. The crown now done for Faker, so he's going to be staying safe. And Hong on this Blitzcrank from behind, that is going to be tough. You know, your solo lanes have both fallen behind. Your bot lane is perma-pushed in. You haven't been able to even... I haven't even seen him attempt to hook 13 minutes into the game so far.
And I mean, Blitzcrank from behind, when you're going to be playing against Umbral Glaive, you never are going to know if you're in that safe pocket of vision where you can lurk and set up that perfect hook. The potential is always there, but the windows of opportunity get smaller and smaller when you're at this kind of deficit, when you're playing against so much vision denial, especially against a champion like Senna. And normally, Guma, we often see Collector come out as a first item, aggressive, yes, much more solo queue focused, but it seems like he might be going Serrated Dirk into Navori, just looking to capitalize on that additional damage, the cooldown reduction that comes through, the endless W procs that show up.
I mean, you can just see the turret plates 9-1 for T1. That shows you how that early game is going. They have the kills to back it up as well. Zeus now with that Dustblade complete. He did this all through the LCK playoffs. He loves to play this in lethality style. Even when he's playing into tanks, he was still doing this, and he was able to really make it work, Chronicler, by finding the backline in these fights.
Well, there's a couple of interesting itemization choices on T1. You already commented on the Aatrox as well as the Nila, but it looks like Faker's actually going for Crown into Banshees.
Yeah.
So, like, the man is really going for defensive playstyles in the featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. Thus far, Faker, I normally am not a fan of going for these type of full supportive builds, but if you're 1,500 gold up, might get away with it.
And honestly, I think his read is probably that he's the only one that is vulnerable in these engages. If he feels that, hey, the Nila can stay safe, you know, with the W and the R and amp and healing, you know, that can't afford to actually all in on Keria, then hey, maybe it's going to work out.
Forward. Flash out to save from Keria is clean. TP now coming in just to cover the play in the mid lane just in case. Crown buff will fade away, but T1 leveraging that TP just to ensure that they come out on top in the skirmish will not work out for Hung.
Also, honestly, it's double AP solo laners, plus it's a Blitzcrank, right? So having that Banshee's Veil actually has incredibly high value, not only against the hard all-ins, but against, you know, even just having that MR is pretty high value. So I agree, people, you know, very, very critical of these really defensive builds, but maybe in this case it works out because you've got a lot of damage on this T1 team.
Zeus just walking out fearlessly, and this sucks for LNG. This was the guy you set up to pull ahead. The map was split to isolate top lane, but that 1v1 costing so much now as we get later into the game.
And Zeus, you know, for all his struggles that he has found in finals, and specifically against Doran, was, I think, the member that even during the tough times for T1 this summer, looked the most composed.
Yeah.
It's really easy to forget that this is a player that has only been the starter for 2 years, right? Like, he's obviously been a mainstay for T1, but hasn't been around for that long.
The whole T1 team, you know, well, besides Faker, you know, is incredibly, incredibly young, even for pro standards, but it just feels like they're such veterans because they make every deep run. You know, every time they show up to these international events, they keep getting far. And yes, they have not won that big international event yet, but they have gotten close time and time again.
And really big now is that LNG is able to create some vision denial against T1, right? You want to have at least an opportunity to maybe try and hook someone in, get a lead, because with the goal deficit the way it is, I feel like LNG is going to be forced to contest for this Drake. Like, Soul Point Infernal Soul is not going to be very fun and interactive to play into. You can see as well that they're already making their way over. And we'll have to see if LNG can find a way, because if they can win a fight here, it might be an avenue back into the game.
It's also Gale Force for Guma, so he's not going Navori. I've seen a lot more Navori in solo queue as well, but going for that Gale Force does give you the additional playmaking. Pro's obviously a really big fan of this item. Allows you to close the gap. You can see that he is also playing Ghost, so between the flash, the dashes with the E, you can try to get in on that back line, snap people in with the ulti. You have Keria with the ulti over the top to support, and T1 is just going to try to pile in massive amounts of AoE damage. Started off by Guma. You have Owner going in. You have the Shockwave going in. You have AoE damage coming out from Zeus. And if they can pull off that engage, it's going to be incredibly difficult for LNG, I think, to turn it around.
And I think one thing that LNG needs to consider is we see this all in on the top side. Zeus getting the Q3 in, but not quite as much sustained as initially expected. Hex Drinker pocked. Won't result in much more. Both sides simply backing away. A trade of ultimates. But you can see here, a lot of T1's composition leveraging the power of healing. Might need to see some reduction from the side of LNG, but TP coming top side.
They're all coming. There's 4 at top right now.
Full focus on getting this objective bounty. Zeus, flag and drag. We'll just get the flash in the end. Tower picked up on the bottom side as well.
That's going to be double objective bounty in about 30 seconds there for LNG. They got the tier 1 bot. They're taking the tier 1 top. Yes, they're going to be losing that dragon, but they've made the call here. And this is more the LNG that I know that is not going to fight these fights where they think they're disadvantaged, right? And that's why it was so surprising to see them take some earlier on. But they're just going to play the map. They're going to try to get as much gold in the pockets of their carries as possible and attempt to be ready for this soul fight, which is very likely to be game deciding here in 5 minutes.
At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised knowing T1 if they don't even opt into a soul fight in 5 minutes, but just head straight towards the Baron. Something that this team has been known for a really long time. And I think in summer they cooled it down a little bit. Didn't really work out quite as well as it has in the past. We'll see if LNG find a way, because I do agree. I think that fighting there is always going to lose you the game.
Yeah.
LNG identified the best opportunity to still get something out of the play.
And it's going to be Crown into Nashers here for Scout. So again, respecting the upfront damage, respecting that potential engage. And Zeus just all aboard the lethality train here. He's going more and more towards it. I think we're going to see Collector second for Guma.
Yep.
And, you know, just looking towards this kind of heavy burst style build. does make armor very, very valuable when you have 3 lethality users over on the T1 side, but we're not seeing anything really itemized in towards just yet.
And it's tricky because Neela is an incredibly obnoxious champion. Every bit of crit she buys gives her percentage armor pen as well as healing when she does damage to champions. So oftentimes you'll wonder, why is Neela hitting so hard? It's because to make a melee carry work, they had to give her ridiculous frickin' scaling. And you will feel it at 2 items, most certainly. You will feel it even more at 3 items. If this champion is not blown up in a fight, she will take over in extended engages.
There is also the fact that we've seen I think one of the most successful combos in this tournament has been Rakan, Aurel combined with Jarvan, right? Like that combo, Aurel and Rakan together. And without the Neela, T1 wouldn't really have anything to, outside of a Shockwave, to really follow up in the same way. And particularly with Guild Force, I think it'll be really easy for Guma to follow up if a good engage is found.
Absolutely, and I even think there's opportunities to just start it off yourself if you do find that angle, right? That's what makes this champion so unique, is that you can be the primary engage, and it's not really in a way that any other AD carry can. Sure, there's champions like Ashe, but it's obviously very different shooting an arrow out versus shooting yourself out.
Sure, and she's also one of the only AD carries in the game that can go, oh, Gwen wants to jump on top of me, that's fine. This is a champion who can block so many of those empowered autos. Yes, she can't block the snip, but can take a lot of these diving champions on head-to-head if they don't have backup from a player like Gala or Scout. Hook going just a little bit wide there, but you can see LNG fighting tooth and nail to get a little bit of vision down here, just to make sure that T1 cannot attempt to sneak the Baron. T1 no mid-prio yet, but with Guma coming out of the base with Collector, they will start to fight back for some of this vision control.
This is also where you see the Umbral Glaive get a ton of value, right? And the fact that Keria is able to consistently take away some of the vision of LNG. Although I gotta say, with this ward surviving, I think they still have a pretty good idea of T1 not actually starting the Baron yet, combined with the fact that they have, I think, a ward right in front of the pit.
Yep, they do.
Which is good scouting on LNG's part, knowing T1 and their knack for starting Barons on a moment's notice.
Scout here on the side. He's just going to lay down a little bit of poke here, get the Conqueror stacked up against Owner. Blitz. Just going to continue to fish for these picks. But Banshee's Veil plus Crown, you talked about it earlier as a build. It's obviously a very conservative build, but at the same time, no one is ever killing Faker. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, especially from the position that T1 are in. And there's so many threats on this team that it's going to be really difficult to get into the backline towards him. But at the same time, you have to respect the fact that Scout is on his ultimate comfort pick. Gala on his ultimate comfort pick is on 2 items. Scout likely to have his Nashers done relatively soon. And LNG, I think, are going to hope to get their 2 items done before this next Dragon, and I think that is where they're going to try to just draw the line in the sand and try to turn this game around. If you can win a big fight there, if you can take that Dragon away from T1, maybe knock some of these towers off the map, all of a sudden, the game becomes within reach.
And do note as well, talking about 2-item power spikes, Zay is actually finishing the Edge of Night, another Blitzcrank counter item, right? Yep. Making it hard for him to get hooked in. Owner with the Knight's Vow, which I think he put on Guma just now.
Yeah, there's really not good poke either on LNG's side to actually knock off Banshee's or Edge of Night.
Not a lot of ways. And in about 30 seconds, this is going to be a must-win fight for LNG. Infernal Soul also going to take away a lot of the potential problems with lethality, because if you add all the extra damage on top of that, it's not going to be nearly as much of a problem. Or T1 might pivot towards the Nash.
We'll see what T1 want to do, but this is an opportunity. 2 items across the board, just about for the side of LNG. Maybe a chance to fight their way back into this game. Some unforced errors earlier on, costing them dearly as we've gotten later into this game. But they can reset the script right here if they can find the right angle on this fight.
You can see both teams trying to fight for this mid lane wave, but all the vision for T1 is focused towards that Baron side, and T1 do have mid-prio. The Dragon spawning just now, so will LNG just try to rush it? And the answer is going to be yes. Zika's already on it, and T1 are coming, so the fight is going to be on.
Have to be careful about locking themselves in the pit. Keep your eyes on Guma if he gets to the back line. Owner now stepping forward. Dragon Soul stolen, and now it's Guma Yushi looking to tear through the entire team. Goes golden right to the back line. Zeus continuing to step up, but Zeka needs to be the difference maker. Zeka needs to hold on, but there are too many members free firing into the Gwen. Zeus stands strong on the back side of the fight, taking down so many members on the side of LNG.
And Zika tries heroically, but it's not enough. The steal comes through. T1 have the gold lead. then they're able to take a commanding lead. Only Carrier ends up going down.
Busan erupts as T1 claim the Soul, claim the Ace, and claim the Baron, and you have to think they've claimed game 1 as well.
An incredible start to the series from T1, showing us something new here on the world stage with the Nila, but you can see the start of this fight, everything they could want, and it only gets better from the moment that Infernal was stolen.
Yeah, they're just not able to really do anything with this Blitzcrank. I mean, I'm not able to find an angle to engage. LNG so focused on trying to actually knock down this Dragon that Zika's not in a good position as the fight starts, and then Gala just gets tipped there, and as Hong hooks him, he hooks Zeus in. Thanks for the alley-oop. He slams it down on Gala.
And gentlemen, I'm not trying to flame anybody, but I don't think Hong is going to play Blitz again.
It's a self-ban angle.
It might be the self-ban angle.
Yeah, Blitz, as you pointed out at the beginning of the match, Azil, is very much, it's hit or miss.
Yeah.
And
That was the first hook,
was
Chronicler.
miss.
Yeah.
That was the first hook. The first hit was a miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a hit, if you're a T1 fan.
True. They might want more. They might say, let's run it back.
Yeah.
Would be understandable, but look at the teamfight damage. Look at how many threats there are. The lethality Aatrox hitting like a truck, combined with the Nila, combined with Faker, even on this super tanky build, still outputting so much damage. Hook not quite going to connect there onto Owner. He could feel the wind on his backside, but T1 just barreling down the bottom lane.
And honestly, it's just been a tough one for LNG because you lost topside around these engages at Herald, around this engage in mid lane. Your bot lane in the 2v2 doesn't really stand much of a chance. You're perma pushed in. So even once this Blitzcrank got out of lane, there wasn't much recourse for him. And T1 on the push. Zeus may be in trouble.
Zeus off to the side, but LNG has to be careful about overcommitting. Zeus still just taunting them, teasing them. Blitzcrank, can the hook come out? Cataclysm locking him in. They will connect, but he pulls it back. Apotheosis! Gumayushi ascending to godhood in that moment as LNG are torn to shreds. T1 too far ahead. They make it look effortless.
It's a clean ace for T1. Faker shockwaves the minions just to speed up the demise of LNG. The Korean fans erupt here as T1 gonna claim game number 1.
Busan will not be silenced yet. Incredible start for T1. LNG kicking themselves after that early game, and to be honest, it was a mess there as we got later and later into the game. Gonna have to go back to the drawing board as we get ready for game 2.
And coming into this game, for me, as I mentioned at the beginning, the most important player on the T1 side was Owner. How was he going to be able to play? And I think it was him and Faker, the combination of the Rel plus the Orianna that ended up being really big. And then also on the flip side, Tarzan in particular, having a really rough game on the Jarvan. Like, they picked that away, which I think was the right call. But after a game like that, I don't know if you can do that a second time.
I mean, I think he had a bad game, but I also have to criticize Scout. I'm a massive Scout fan, but I don't think he was on point with his engages either. You know, the engage that he went in for over by the Herald fight did not work out.